Hello guys, it is me, Sir Rio, and today I am finally back, and here I am with an updated Gurguit deck profile. Now this variation of Gurguit is, I call it the Unglass Cannon Gurguit because as we all know, Gurguit currently in the meta, before its new support, whatever the new support gives it in set 13, is a glass cannon, and I found a way to make the deck unglass cannon as possible, yet still being able to be super aggressive. And that being said, let's get on with the deck profile. So starting off with the starting Vanguard, I am still running the best starter in the Gold Paladin clan, Knight of Early Dawn Cole. Cole's skill is that he has the Forerunner ability, and his second skill is an Act, Generation Break 1, Unite, put him into the soul, look at 3 cards at the top of your deck, choose up to one of them in Superior, call it to Rearguard Circle, and the called unit by this effect gets plus 2,000. So this is good because it builds you field for free, and Unite is super easy to trigger. So it's such a good mechanic. But you get a call for free. It gets plus 2k buff, and that's mainly why it's there. It also helps you build board, and if you don't get to use it, it's still usable during more of the late game stages when you need a build board, which is why I like it a lot. Next up for the grade 3s, I will be saying this right now, the ratios are pretty screwed up yet. I haven't been able to brick yet, so that's pretty good. So starting off, I run 3 Original Gurguit. Original Gurguit is the defensive Gurguit, and in this deck, it is the first ride that you want to be on. With this Gurguit, you can counterblast Soul Blast 1 for his Generation Break 2, and when he's attacked at the beginning of the guard step, you may pay the cost. If you do, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and search for up to 1 card from among them and call it to Guardian Circle in the rest position. Then you shuffle your deck, and the second skill is the Stride skill, which you can counterblast 1. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. When a unit strides onto this unit, you can Superior Call out of the top 4, 1 unit, and that unit gets plus 2,000, then you shuffle that deck. So this is the first stride because the deck needs to build soul, and the reason is because the countercharge mechanic is pretty good, but it is involving a lot of soul blasting. So this is the ideal ride first. That way when you first stride, you can start getting your units out that will go to soul and build the soul really well. This is also the main ride target, if we're gonna go there, because this Gurguit keeps your soul, and it's the slower Gurguit, but if you need to be more aggressive, next up I am running the 3 new Gurguit. This is the Gurguit that you want to be on, either if you know you're going to kill your opponent first turn stride, or if you need to trigger Unite and you just cannot right now. If you don't have enough hand, and it's also in case you're pushing for kill. This Gurguit is the faster Gurguit. It's a lot faster for the deck, and its skill is 2. So he has 2 skills. His first skill is Generation Break 2, Unite Continuous. All of your rear guards get the intercept ability, and when your Vanguard is being attacked, that unit can intercept from the back row. So it's Generation Break 2 is for free, and it triggers on Unite. I think that's pretty good, depending on how many rear guards you have. I just feel like the old Gurguit is a lot better because it is more for the control matchup as well. In terms of his Generation Break, this Gurguit isn't as good against control matchups, unless you're playing against something like, let's say, Aquaforce, which doesn't really control. If it's Blue Wave, if it's Stavis, it will be playing control. But if it's Blue Wave, you'll have an easier time with this Gurguit's Generation Break. That's just for Aquaforce. There's so many more matchups that this Gurguit has difficulty on, but his Stride skill does make this card a lot better. Which is, what you can do is you can counterblast Soul Blast 1. When your unit strides onto this unit, you may pay the cost. If you do, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and Superior Call up to 1 card from among them to Rearguard Circle. You shuffle the deck. Then if you Superior Called a unit with Unite ability, with this ability, you look at the top card of your deck and you call it to Rearguard Circle in the rest position. Instant Unite trigger. That's pretty good. Let's say you call Horsa with his skill, and then you call the top card of your deck in the rest position. Horsa's Unite triggers, and the column gets plus 2k each. This is why this Gurguit is a lot better to be on if you're gonna be pushing for kill or you just want to be more aggressive. This Gurguit is super strong because of that Stride skill, and that's all I need to say for this Gurguit. So I am running 6 grade 3s, and I don't remember how many grade 2s I'm running because I'm bad at memory, but I have a bad memory when it comes to this stuff. But anyway, moving on to the grade 2s. I am running 3 Pwill. Pwill is a very key card in this deck. Quill helps you get your extra attacks off with this skill, which is automatic counterblast 1. When this unit attacks the Vanguard, if this unit is being boosted, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and search for up to 1 card from among them, call it to rear guard circle, and shuffle your deck. So the reason why this card is super important is because this card can help you trigger Unite during the battle phase if you cannot trigger Unite. It's also there for helping you get more multi-attacks off and potential setup for next turn. It also helps you build field, and it is like a really annoying card to deal with against like a lot of decks, because I know that I've had it where my opponent has launched their Vanguard attack at this card because I hate it so much, and it's like a big priority target in this deck. But the card works super well. It is an amazing card. The battle phase calling is super important because you get potentially more extra attacks off, or you can have things like Gigantic Ringer come on the board and help set up for next turn, which could be really big because you can Superior Call and then Ringer Skull will go off and then plus 5k, etc. This is just like super amazing card, and it must be ran in this build. Without this card in this build, the deck loses out on aggression and it suffers. Next up, I'm running 3 Knight of the Remaining Sun Hinderness, your main phase, and Call and Building Caller. This card helps you build field, and it's super strong with his ability, which is automatic Generation Break 1, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. When this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, search for up to 1 card from among them, and Superior Call it to Rearguard Circle, then shuffle the deck. And then, it's not shuffle, sorry, it is put the rest of the bottom of the deck in any order. Then, if you have a Vanguard with Gurguit in its card name, that unit that was called with this effect and this unit both gain plus 3,000. So the card is really strong because, number 1, the calling is not restricted to Gurguit, not like it matters, but it does matter in different decks. And number 2, this helps you make more power lines because your grade 3s are Gurguits. Your G units are mostly Gurguits, and by that I mean like 5 G units. But the thing is, this card builds field and buffs it up. This card can also build columns during the battle phase because of this card. This card exists, and it also buffs it up. That's why this card is really strong in this deck. It does Soul Blast, but that's why you mainly want to be on old Gurguit, because old Gurguit can sustain Soul a lot better than new Gurguit. But right now, this card is like super strong, and I really like this as my main phase caller. This is my main phase caller. It is also, it's not the only one, because the other one I run is 1 Parrymore. I'm only running the 1 Parrymore because it gets plus 2k on Unite, and it calls to his skill is you can counterblast 1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and Superior Call up to 1 card in the same column as this unit is in. It does not specify that needs to be behind it, it just specifies in the same column. So yes, you can call over that this unit with the called unit, but I'm only running it at 1 because it is restricted to the column calling. If it wasn't, this probably would have been ran at 2 or 3 because of his Unite. His Unite is also good for early game, and it's pretty good. It can help make your Horsa column just a lot bigger because he gives himself plus 2. So that's pretty nice, and that's why I run him at a 1 of. Though I may bump him up to a 2 of, depending if the deck really needs it and its Soul Blast just too much. But next up, I run 2 Bullergalls. I tech this down to 2 because I needed the Parrymore, and also I needed room for another card I run. But Bullergall is your 14k beatstick with his Unite skill, which is automatic Unite. When this unit attacks the Vanguard, it gets plus 5k. The reason why this is good is because with a 7k booster, it's a 21k line. With the Horsa, and you keep ramping the Horsa up in power. So good, man, you know. With a 2k boost and you trigger Unite, that's a 16k attacker. This card is your main attacker. Another target, like another priority target, but your main priority target in this deck. If you are trying to play against Gurguit, the main targets in the deck are Horsa and Quill, but this card will really hurt you if you do not kill it as well. This is one of the priority targets in this deck. 2 though, just because you need the room for the other things in this deck, and I see it consistently enough to be ran at 2. And then finally, I run 2 Marcios because resist, it's soul, and it countercharges. So good. That's why you run it at 2. That's why I run it at 2. Mainly they're just for the soul and the countercharge though. And I believe that is 11 grade 2s, so moving on to the grade 1s, which should be 15. For Alicia, I decided to take out the Lavinia because the deck needed to be just more defensive, I felt like. Also, Lavinia would always troll me and be worse. Whenever I would Slimy Flare and I needed the perfect guard, it was Lavinia. So I was like, you know what, Lavinia? I'll play you in Ezel. Just stay in Ezel. This just really helps because you can bottom deck important rear guards that you need back into the deck. And it cheeses really funnily. It's also a 15k guard if you bottom deck one of your rear guards and you trigger the Unite ability. And it can also perfect guard from the deck, which is why I run it at 4. Next up, I run 4 Stride Fodder. You're running 6 Grade 3s in this deck if you're planning on doing this build. You need the Stride Fodder. It is super important. That way you can stride more consistently. Next up, I run 3 Jeffrey. The draw is super nice. It is also your ideal ride target for grade 1. But it's mainly there for the soul and the draw. That's why I have it in there. The draw is super important because the deck needs the hand power. Next up, I run the second main priority target in this deck. 3 Horsa. Horsa is so good. It gives you your power lines. With this card, you can ramp it up every time you call with his ability, which is automatic Unite. When you call a unit to rearguard circle other than this unit, choose another unit in the same column as this unit is in, and that unit in the same column as this unit is in, and this unit both gain plus 2,000. This is automatic, not once per turn. Oh my god, this is so good because it doesn't specify where you call, so you can superior call from the deck or just call from hand. It will ramp in power. This thing, I've had it a 31k booster because of how much I will call. This thing is so good. You need to run it. If it dies, you lose a lot of your power plays in the deck. That's why you need to protect it. But that being said, if you're playing against a control deck, well, just play really smart against it. That's why I run it. And then finally I run 2 Malegians. This is your counter charge, basically. His skill is Soul Blast 2. When this unit is placed on rear guard circle, if you have a Gold Paladin Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, counter charge 2. The deck needs the counter charge, and I cannot emphasize this enough. The deck will die if you do not have resources. That's why I run Malegian at 2. The deck can also generate enough soul that you can use this at 2, and it can keep ramping up in soul because Glorious Raining can make its skill essentially for free, and you plus out of it with the soul charge. You also have things like Marcia, Jerry, Jeffrey to fuel soul. You have your triggers that can fuel soul. This card can just be really used in this deck. This card can also be utilized really well because you can recycle it with Slimy Flare and Alicia, which is also why I run it at 2. But I mainly run it at 2 though just because I want to see it more consistently and I want to countercharge more. That way I can always have resources. Which is also why you want to be on Old Gurguit because this one can manage your soul way better and you don't necessarily need to use your GB. That's why I run this card. Next up, you got your triggers. Pretty simple. I changed it up though. I'm running 8 crit, 4 Scarface line. You need the soul and draw. It's really nice. Yeah. And 4 Flame of Victory. The soul, again, that's why this card is there. That deck does need the soul, and without the soul, you can't really get off your counter charge engine and your other things that do require your soul. So 8 crit. You also want to be as aggressive as possible with this deck, and being able to manage your resources, and these 2 cards just really help with the managing. Next up, I run 4 stand triggers in the form of 2 Ringer, one of your main build, this is literally your main draw engine, and then 2 Jerry. So I run the 2 Jerry. I took Jerry down to 2 because I really like the way Ringer plays, and the fact that you run the Legian in the deck, you don't really need to rely on Jerry as much, but Jerry is still necessary in the deck. The reason is because with Ringer, with his skill, you can, when you superior call a unit to the rear guard circle from your deck, he goes back to the deck, that unit gets 5,000 attack power, you shuffle the deck, and then you draw. So this helps you cycle itself back in the deck, and you get a draw, which is really good because the deck can generate hand very fast now because of this card, and a lot easier. And with Jerry, you can countercharge 1 with his skill, which is continuous generation break 1, unite. This unit gets plus 3,000 power, and at the end of the battle that this unit attacked or boosted, goes to soul countercharge 1. That part is mandatory, but you don't really need to worry because usually you will be countercharging the 1. It's also This is also really nice to have because it can free up a rearguard circle so you don't have to call over a unit. It's just opened up now, which is also really nice. So that's why I run these two cards in the deck. Next up, I run 4 heal triggers in the form of 4 Elexia, which is misprinted. It is supposed to be Elixir Liberator. This is the heal trigger that Soul Lost 1 when you guard with a specific G guard. If you have 1 or less cards face up in the damage zone, you countercharge 1. That's why it's there. It's the countercharge mechanic. That's why I run it. It's also shiny. Who doesn't like shiny triggers? Next up, G-Zone. I still run 4 Heavenly Law. Heavenly Law is a very key card in this deck. You can potentially kill your opponent on first stride with this card a lot more consistently with his skill, which is once per turn you can counter boss 1 to use one of him face down and turn it face up. This unit gets 2 abilities until the end of the turn, and you also need a discard card from your hand to pay the cost, which is his first one that he gets is Unite Automatic. When this unit attacks, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck and Superior Call 1 to Rearguard Circle, then shuffle the deck. And then the second one skill, which is Continuous, all of your units get plus 2,000 for every Gurguit face up in the G zone. This is really important because after you first stride with this, you have 2, right? You go into this again and you have 3. Look at that, that's a 6k power buff, which is actually really big, and it's continuous. So with this card, you can kill on second stride a lot faster, and if you have a horse on board, at least 1 and a pill on board, that's pretty scary for your opponent because you will be getting a lot of multi-attacks off. That's why I run at 4. The discard cost is like, it sucks, but you have things like Jeffrey and Jerry that, not Jerry, and a Ringer that let you draw, so it's not that bad. 4 of that. Next up, I run 4 Glorious Reigning Dragons. I run 4 because this thing will also kill your opponent with his skill, which is Automatic Unite, counter boss 1, choose a face down Glorious Reigning from a G zone, turn it face up. When this unit, and choose 2 of your rear guards and bottom deck them. When this unit attacks Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, and for every unit face up in the G zone, you can call that many cards from the top 7. Then if you call 3 or more with this effect, Soul Charge 1, Counter Charge 1. That part is mandatory, but that's not bad because it builds Soul, and you counter charge 1 if you call 3 or more, which you plus essentially, which is really strong. This this card is so good. And I'm saying this right now, guys. You don't need the GB8 in this deck because you will kill your opponent by the time you get GB8. It's either you win or they win by the time GB8 rolls around. You run 4. I run 4 because it's just a really good power play. It's also battle phase field building, and it's super strong because of that. You can also send things back like triggers back to the deck, which I think is also really useful. And yeah, and it says call up to that many units, so if you're in a position where you need to knock deck out, you can return 2 units back to the deck, and you have the option of calling units. Next up, I run 2 Scourge Points. I run 2 Scourge Points because being able to buff up your field first stride and not have to worry about discarding and more just go ham on face with 3 really big lines, I think is pretty good. It's also there against the Messiah matchup or Link Joker, but this card just helps you solo against it because you make your Vanguard really big for no reason if you keep Superior Calling. And that's why I run 2. Next up, I run 1 these things, Radiant Sword. You meme your opponent with this, or you will like really kill them with this card because you can make your Vanguard a 100k essentially, and you make your rearguard super big as well, which is why you run it at 1. You only need the 1 because usually you will be killing your opponent either on Heavenly Law or Glorious Reigning, but if they live, you go on this and you really kill them. Next up on Seabreeze, this is a Generation Break restricted deck. That is pretty obvious on why you run Seabreeze. Yeah. And then finally for the G Guardians, I run 2 Slimy Flare because being able to Superior Perfect Guard and return triggers back to your deck, or just like return units from your rear guards back to the deck. Back to the deck is really strong. 1 Rhea because having an easy 5k shield is also really helpful, and you don't need to use Slimy Flare and use cards in your hand or in your deck to guard. And then 1 Elise because with Elise you can actually build field instead. With Elise's skill, which is Generation Break 1, Counter Boss 1, Guardian Flip. When this unit is placed in Guardian Circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. call up to one card from among them to Guardian Circle, bottom deck the rest, and that unit gets, at the end of the attack, if the attack did not hit, move this card to Rear Guard Circle. That's why I play it, at least. It builds field during my opponent's turn, which can F up Ziegenberg, because, you know, it's like, swing a Rear Guard, okay, at least superior call. Oh, look, you left like 3 things on board. You left like 2 things on board. Now we have a third one. Would you like to discard 3 for your cost? And that's why it's there. So that is it for the deck profile. The deck, with the testing I have done with it, it is working very well. I haven't bricked, but that just may be my luck. That might not be your luck if you plan on building this deck. The deck can now manage resources a lot better, I feel like, and with this build especially, because you have your main draw engine, which is like 5 cards, but 2 of them recycle back to the deck, and it also buffs up your board, which is pretty strong. And you also have your countercharge engine, which you run, well, I run in this deck a total of, in the main deck, it's like 8 units that can countercharge, and 2 of those units countercharge 2, and the deck can generate enough soul that you can really use that. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this updated Gurguit profile. Make sure you guys leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome Gurguit content. This channel will also be doing other Gold Paladin and Vanguard related things. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Sir Rio signing out.